So, this is probably blasphemous for me to admit on the pulpit of a church that I've attended for 4 years, but I consider myself to be agnostic. So, you might be wondering, how did a straight agnostic dude find himself attending an all-inclusive LGBTQ+ affirming Presbyterian church? Well, as Erica put it once, I was tricked. I vividly remember that day as a freshman, where I was checking the UW Welcome app for events that were happening in the first week of that semester. And one such event was for something called Music Team. Now to me, and the event page only had the title and the location. So to me, this music team just sounded like a way for me to play music while attending college. You could probably imagine my surprise when I showed up that day and found out what exactly Music Team was all about. So Natalie, the music director at the time, was very understanding and said that I was welcome to play, and so I did. My thought process for remaining with Music Team that first year or so was that this would be an educational opportunity for myself to explore Christianity and religion as a whole, while also being able to exercise my musical abilities. But soon, I found myself meeting new people and making friends. Initially, this was reserved for only the people that I played with on Music Team, but that changed too. And soon Press House became not only a musical outlet, but also a social one. I started joining some music-related small groups like Spirit Through Song, and found myself going to Press House to study and hang out with peers, not just for music. I think one of my favorite memories, and possibly a turning point for me in my relationship with Press House, was attending Press House Prom in spring of 2025. At the time, I was incredibly swamped with classes, as one is, as I imagine most of you are feeling during finals lounge, and feeling genuinely overwhelmed, and I wasn't sure if I had the bandwidth to attend. But I'm so glad I did. Dancing, making flower crowns, and just hanging out with you all made my troubles melt away, even if just for a moment. I'll never forget that night and the fun I had. In my last year at Press House, I became more involved than ever before. I started attending family dinners on Wednesdays, and then also went to fall retreat for the first time, which was an extremely rewarding experience that I wish I had attended sooner. It gave me time to sit and reflect on my thoughts, feelings, and relationships that I wouldn't have taken the time to do so otherwise. I don't know if it was fate or coincidence that led me to show up here 4 years ago, but what I do know is that I'm glad I stayed. Although I graduated last winter, Press House has given me connections and memories that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. My parting words to you all is that even amidst the madness of school, you should take the time to slow down and connect with those all around you, whether it's here or in any other gathering space on campus. Form and strengthen those connections, and you will find fulfillment and joy that can last you a lifetime. Thank you.
From the several times that you may have seen me in my little corner right over there playing guitar or singing, you can probably guess that I love music. Growing up, music was as ingrained in my being as math and science were. I love music, not just because it's a way to stretch my rubber bands in non-STEM ways, but also because it's reliable. There's a song out there for almost everything. Whether you need some background noise, if you need to dance around your room, or if you just need a good cry. Music says the words you may not know how to, and helps you feel emotions you didn't realize you needed. It's all around us too, whether it's during worship or blasting in your headphones. Even the sounds of nature or a busy street can be music to the right person's ears. To me, music feels like one of the only constants in our ever-changing world. So when I came to college, I needed something reliable. I like to think I can handle change pretty well, but moving to a new place alone and suddenly being responsible for my own life was very overwhelming for 18-year-old me. I felt way too unprepared and so discombobulated to wonder I even made it to class on time some days. And in that chaos, I knew I needed to find just one thing to ground me, something I could turn into a routine. So I ventured out to Press House one night in October 2022 to go to this freshman connection thing my mom told me about. I was struggling with finding a consistent community of freshmen to hang out with. So by then, I was willing to try anything, even trust the random Facebook ad my mom saw and her promise that I'd like Presbyterians because, quote, they're really cool. You all can be the judge of that one. I don't know when attending Freshman Connection turned from a desperate attempt at a routine into something I really enjoyed going to. But all of a sudden, I was going to church on Sundays and joining music team and council. And what began as 1 hour a week became something I looked forward to, a space where I could be with people who are also searching for connection and consistency. So a lot has changed since October 2022, from little things like new schedules each semester to bigger things like my family moving to Wisconsin and me deciding to completely pivot my career path within the past year. And I've changed a lot too. I like math a little less, and I care a little more about following my own joy. And I also like Diet Coke now, which is really weird. Yet, Press House remained reliable. My involvement has shifted, and the place itself has grown and changed, but its presence in my life has been steady. I know that if I show up to study during the week, someone will usually always be at the table in Pridham. And I know there will always be a good home-cooked meal after worship, and I know that the people there will support and celebrate whatever is going on in my life. And that kind of reliability is rare and has meant more to me than I can fully put into words. So now, as I'm graduating and it feels like everything is changing again, what else would I do but turn to music for grounding? So there's a song that I was introduced to during another big change, sort of like this, that I keep coming back to whenever I need to say goodbye to something. So there's this guy, his name's Sturgill Simpson, and he has a song called All Around You, and it's the crux of his album, A Sailor's Guide to Earth, which is an ode to his son, filled with metaphors and life lessons. And this song in particular talks about how life can feel long, difficult, and lonely, but reminds us that we're never truly alone. And he introduces this idea of a universal heart, an invisible string that connects us all even after we're gone. And I keep coming back to that idea because it brings me a lot of comfort during a time like this. That even as everything changes, the people and experiences that have shaped me are still a part of me. That all of you, yes, you, are a part of my universal heart, just as you are a part of each other's. And in a world that feels so unpredictable, I think that connection is the most reliable thing that we have. Thank you.
When thinking about what to share with you all today, I started making a list of possible stories I could tell. My first time at Prez House, joining Freshman Connection, going on BWAP, applying for council, my first retreat, and many more. But as I was listing things, it became clear to me what this story should really be about: joy. When I arrived at UW-Madison 4 years ago, I was bombarded by all the things that come with being a college freshman. New friendships, midterms, being away from family, and 1,000 possible organizations and groups you could possibly join. I spent much of my first year just trying to keep my head above water and figuring out where I felt like I belonged and with whom I wanted to spend my time. And like many of you, I arrived during Welcome Week, and I happened to see an event where you could get a free cookie. So I grabbed the only friend I had at the time and made my way down from Bascom Hill toward Library Mall. As we arrived, I looked down at my GPS, then up at the building in front of me, and said, "Oh, it's a church?" Hesitant for what kind of encounter we might have, we went inside, only to find out that there were no cookies left. Devastating, I know. But despite that, we stuck around, and instead I met Niato and some of the council members at the time, and we played Uno for about 2 hours. From that point on, I started showing up to some Sunday worship services and slowly became a regular at Freshman Connection. But while my connections were beginning to grow at Prez House, the rest of my life seemed to be coming to a low. By the time I started my sophomore year, I felt myself sinking. My problems all started to feel really real, and it became overwhelming. I began to tell myself, I just need to get through this semester. I just need to get through this midterm, this week, today, this class. I was living to get through. and my life became a series of lists and boxes to check off to prove to myself that everything was fine and I didn't need to change the trajectory I was on because it was all about the end goal. And I did get through. I survived, but I lost track of the days, weeks, months, and even years. And then suddenly one day, I became a senior, and I found myself thinking, where did all the time go? So much of my college experience, I spent thinking about how stressed I was, how much I had to do, how I wasn't smart enough or good enough because of a bad grade. I also took for granted some of the most important things in my life. What I had forgotten was the joy. It sounds cliche, but the things you remember most from your college experience are not the papers or the exams, but the people and the moments of joy and whimsy that you have shared with them. Life shouldn't be so serious, and yet sometimes it is. I will not stand up here and pretend that choosing joy is easy or will solve all of life's problems. Nor will I say that over the last 4 years, my life has been free from sadness, anger, and struggle. Believe me, there are still days where I question everything and feel like I don't understand why the world is the way that it is. But through my years at Pres House, sermons on Sundays, moments in the lounge, silly games played at retreats, and conversations over broken bread, I realized that understanding the world is not the point. Getting to some end goal is not the point. Joy is. It's our purpose and the way to sustain ourselves on the journey of life that is full of ups and downs. So, how do we do it? I like to think of it this way. People can be candles, and they bring light into this world in many different ways. When I started to look for joy, I realized it was all around me. What I saw was so much light coming from every person, each in their own different way. I saw people sharing their gifts on music team. I saw people dedicating precious free time as a college student to helping clean dishes after dinner. And I saw and felt the light radiating in the warm smiles and welcoming greetings from others whenever I stepped into the building. There is so much joy, there's so much to be joyful about, and so much light in others. But we also have the opportunity to be candles ourselves and share our own light. I don't have all my questions answered, and I don't know where life will lead us all, but I do know we will never get lost on the path of life if we are the ones lighting the way. So, today, on Graduation Sunday, our last May 3rd, I stand up here looking at all of the joy we have created together, knowing that these are the things we will remember most, knowing this is my family, and knowing that there is still joy to be had for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Josie, and to be honest, I felt a little silly writing this grad reflection to share with this community today, as I've really only been part of Pres House for about 30% of my college career. But the gratefulness that I feel for this group of people and the joy and peace y'all have brought me make it very easy to offer words of reflection on what Pres House means today as I prepare to graduate. There have been moments in the past year that I've had moments of regret. Regret that I was not part of this community for longer, that I didn't walk in the door my first week of freshman year. I felt it when my first winter retreat was also my last, when I think about how much deeper my relationships could have grown given 4 years instead of 1 and a bit. The questions and conversations and musings I could have wrestled with and pondered and discussed with only a little bit more time. But then I stopped myself, because how fortunate I am to even feel this longing at all. How grateful I am to have found a community where welcoming is not merely a word, where it is an action that is practiced each week. Pres House is a place where I've learned what presumed welcome meant and where I felt I can freely put it into action. How joyful it has been to get to play alongside my peers on the music team, working together to create a worship environment for celebration and reflection, for centering and renewal. Pres House is a place where I've gotten to make music in so many interesting combinations, perhaps most notably in a violin, viola, dulcimer, accordion quartet, which is surely a first somewhere. How thankful I am to have been pushed out of my comfort zone over and over again to questions I hadn't even known to ponder about. Press House is a place where I've been asked to think deeply, thoughtfully, and question my faith and my beliefs and why I hold them, and has been graciously supportive of me as they evolve over time. It is a place where I am challenged each week, not only by Niato and Erica, but also by my peers who graciously share their wisdom with our community. It's a place where I've had honest discussions with you all about the challenges of the world we live in, and been blessed to hear your thoughts as you hold space for my own. It's a place where I took a leap of faith, entering into a leadership role within a community I had been part of for just over a month. But once again, I needn't have worried, because when I showed up that first weekend of council retreat, I was continuously greeted with kindness and openness and love by the other council members who actively work to make me feel at home. One of the biggest things that the Press House community has taught me is that communities like these don't happen by accident. They are the result of individual people who make decisions each day to show up and try to make the world a tiny bit kinder. People who see people different from themselves and choose wonder instead of judgment. It comes from college students working to find whimsy in everyday life instead of taking themselves too seriously, who find joy in the small moments of togetherness. It results from people who think deeply about their faith and beliefs, about what it looks like to act justly, to love our neighbors, people who are comfortable sitting in the uncomfortable, at being challenged. It happens through meals shared together and dishes washed together, life's moments celebrated together. It happens in places where people can truly, truly come as they are and be reminded that they belong and that they are welcome. This is what Press House has been for me, and it is a community that I have real sorrow in leaving. To each and every one of you who makes up this community, whose actions result in a culture of welcome, thank you. I am grateful for each and every one of you and the time we've gotten to spend together.